Marley, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. Every 3 hours, a woman is murdered in South Africa. What's the nation doing to deal with the violence?
Please leave my town.
I will very soon.
Boris Johnson gets a rough reception from the good people of Yorkshire. A Tamil family threatened with being kicked out of Australia get a temporary reprieve. And catch it, that man. A viral video and a new sport discovered. What more can you want? And top of our newsfeed, South Africa. A wave of attacks on foreigners has caused anger all around the world this week. Thousands of people have taken to the streets calling on the police to do more. Now, those demonstrations have coincided with demands for authorities to address the epidemic levels of violence against women. Here's Adama.
It's been a violent week in South Africa. A wave of xenophobic attacks against foreign nationals has swept through Johannesburg. At least 7 people have been killed and more than 420 arrested. The country has another problem on its hands. Thousands of people are on the streets of Cape Town calling for the government to do more to stem the rise in violence against women. Since Sadiqa Newman, a 26-year-old mother-to-be, was killed on August the 8th, a day before South Africa's annual Women's Day celebrations, the murders of at least 5 other women, including a boxing champion and 6-year-old girl, have made headlines.
We've really had enough. I've got 2 daughters. One of my daughters goes to school down the road from where our young sister was killed on Monday, and every day we're filled with fear, traveling on public transport, at our schools, everywhere. We're not safe.
For many, the final straw has been the discovery of the body of a 19-year-old film student. Uyeneni Marowetiana disappeared on August the 24th on the way to the post office. A 42-year-old post office employee has confessed to raping and beating her. Frustrated by the slow-turning wheels of justice, members of the community have taken matters into their own hands, torching the man's house. Femicide in South Africa is 5 times higher than the global average. Government figures show at least 137 sexual offences are committed per day. President Cyril Ramaphosa has condemned the violence, promising harsher sentences and reviews of sexual offences cases. Some have welcomed this, but footage of him making a mistake during a recorded address to the nation has gone viral too, promoting speculation that the government does not take the problem seriously enough. The question is, how many more women and girls have to die before South African authorities act?
All right, let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. The children of Stephon Clark, a man who was shot and killed by the police in the US city of Sacramento while he was in his grandmother's back garden, have been awarded $2.4 million. Now, after a quarter of that money is handed over to lawyers, the rest will be put into a trust fund. The boys, who are currently aged 2 and 5, will have access to it when they're 22. Now, in March last year, police chased Stephon Clark into his grandmother's garden, thinking he was carrying a gun. It turned out he was carrying his phone. The British Prime Minister was on a walkabout in the Yorkshire town of Wakefield when he was greeted and dissed all in one very elegant, passive-aggressive British way. And the video of it has been watched near 4 million times.
Please leave my town.
I will very soon.
Please leave my town.
I will very soon.
Well, if that wasn't brutal enough, not everyone in Yorkshire was so Britishly polite when asking the PM to get out of town. Elsewhere, this man gave Mr. Johnson a right scolding.
Where is the negotiation going on? Where is it? You're here in Morley, in Leeds. You should be in Brussels, leading the British people to negotiating against leaving the European Union.
Unfortunately,
you are playing games.
Well, this gentleman's entirely right.
The whole country knows this.
He's been speaking
for the last 6 weeks since he's been elected and he's said nothing. You have said nothing for the last 6 weeks. You've gone into Parliament and you've played games.
Well, actually, that's not
It's
true at all.
completely
Well, it's
true.
not true at all.
The former president of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, is dead. He died in hospital in Singapore, where he's been regularly seeking treatment in the recent years. Now, that fact that he died in Singapore certainly raises questions about the state of healthcare in Zimbabwe, a country that he led for nearly 4 decades. Here are 5 things to know about Mugabe's life.
Zimbabwe's former president, Robert Mugabe, has died at the age of 95. Here's what you need to know about his life. Mugabe grew up in the former British colony of Southern Rhodesia, where he started his 15-year-long career as a teacher, during which he traveled through various countries, earned multiple degrees, and was exposed to African nationalist and Marxist ideas. When he returned to his country, he joined activist movements and was later imprisoned for it. After getting out of prison, he joined a guerrilla war against Southern Rhodesia's white government, which eventually resulted in the country gaining independence from the British. In 1980, he became prime minister and renamed the country Zimbabwe. He improved the country's level of education and healthcare during his term. In 1987, the constitution was amended and Mugabe became Zimbabwe's president. As a president, he became increasingly authoritarian. Racial tensions inside Zimbabwe increased, the economy declined, and Mugabe did everything to stay in power, saying that he would stay in power until God says, come. In 2017, the Zimbabwean army removed Mugabe from office, fearing that he would appoint his wife Grace as his successor. He was replaced by Emerson Mnangagwa and given diplomatic immunity.
Well, the footballer Romelu Lukaku was the target of some racist chanting at a game in Italy recently. So what's new, you say? Well, this time, some of the fans took to social media to defend themselves and those who were doing the insulting, and they are adamant that they're not racist.
Su tante altre situazioni io penso che in Italia dovremmo migliorare molto ed essere molto più educati e rispettosi nei confronti di chi lavora. We will keep spinning around the world now. Some other stories you need to know this Friday. A Tamil family from Sri Lanka fighting deportation will remain in Australia for at least 12 days more. Well, sort of. Priya and Nades and their 2 young girls are being held in an offshore detention centre on Christmas Island. A judge has ordered that the immigration minister give more evidence that their youngest child, a 2-year-old who was born in Australia, doesn't have the right to protection. The family had been living in a small Queensland town for 4 years while their asylum claims were being processed. But the Australian government wants to return them to Sri Lanka, where they say they'll face ethnic violence. It could take much longer than 12 days for this sad saga to end.
As the judge indicated, this is only the first part of this case. So if after the interlocutory hearing it goes further, it will be set down for a full hearing, of which that date is not determined. And as the judge indicated, the injunction would generally hold out until that time as a final decision. The family will remain in detention at Christmas Island. I haven't heard anything further otherwise.
Rohingya refugees who fled the genocide in Myanmar and now live in refugee camps in Bangladesh may soon have their mobile access to the internet cut. The Bangladeshi government has cited state security for restricting the online movements of nearly 1 million people living in Cox's Bazar and in other places. Facebook has launched a dating app in the US, a return to the original purpose of the site, designed by Mark Zuckerberg in his Harvard dormitory, a place for people to see people they'd like to see in real life. The launch of the new function comes with some features aimed at making meeting strangers safer. The app allows for you to tell a friend who you're meeting, when and where. The friend will then get a notification and your location for an hour or so they can check on you. New York City is rat infested, that's a fact. Now, many urban metropolises are, but apparently the rat problem in NYC is particularly bad, so they've got a new plan. The city's buying a bunch of these devices called eco-mealies. They attract rodents with bait and then drop them into a bucket containing something called EcoFix, an alcohol-based liquid that kills the rats and stops them from rotting. Now, the most famous rat in NYC was this guy, Pizza Rat, named for obvious reasons. A consumer group in the UK says that TripAdvisor may be ruining people's holidays because of the amount of fake reviews that are up on the site. Apparently, 1 in 7 of the reviews that are posted to TripAdvisor have the hallmarks of fakery. Talk about first world problems. But TripAdvisor says it goes after fake reviews aggressively, more aggressively than any other platform out there, so they say. H&M, or Hennes & Mauritz, as my mum used to say, the world's second biggest fashion store, says it's putting a stop to buying leather from Brazilian suppliers over concerns that the hides come from cows kept in facilities built on land cleared of the Amazon rainforest. There is increasing concern coming from companies and banks and nations that the relaxation of protections for the Amazon, a policy of Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro, is having a devastating effect on the ecosystem. Well, the Indonesian government wants to move its capital city. Authorities there plan to abandon Jakarta and build a new centre in Borneo. But that could cause big problems for one of Borneo's most valuable residents.
Untuk yang saat ini kebetulan dengan fasilitas orang utan itu agak berjarak, tapi juga ada yang kita kembangkan pulau buatan itu juga tidak jauh jadinya sekarang dengan area jalan tol tersebut. Ya, kita sekarang baru mencoba atau tidak mencoba, kita menanami sebanyak mungkin tanaman yang sekiranya bisa menjadi barier kebisingan.
And last up today, take a look at this. It is a hell of a catch. Now, this is a man riding a roller coaster catching a flying phone. This happened in Spain on the Shabanhala ride at Port Aventura Park. It is a great take. Have a look at this. One-handed, beautiful, very skillful, and all the more impressive because, of course, it's caught on camera. Now, the guy with the great hands is a professional fistball player. Yes, fistball. No, I had not heard of it either. But it's this. It kind of looks like volleyball, but I guess they only use their fists. It looks pretty tough. That's all from the Newsfeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints, and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel, and you can follow me on Twitter. Follow, subscribe, and add, and I will see you again very soon.